Hey, this is JD from JD Reports, and today I have the Canon EFS 17-55 F2.8 IS USM lens. So as you can see here, as I spin this zoom ring here, nothing is happening on the lens end, so it's not actually expanding out. And what I believe is going on is there's actually an internal component that's preventing this from opening and closing. It's the disconnect between those two items. So hopefully I can open it up here and figure out what's going on. Okay, so I did go ahead and buy a couple of screwdrivers here. They're all listed. What I would recommend is buying the JIS screwdriver bits, the number 0 and the number 000. JIS are Japanese bits. They're better than Phillips because they're going to tend not to strip out the screws. So with this, I really wanted to make sure I didn't strip any of these little tiny screws that I knew were going to be inside here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is remove the two screws that hold the plastic piece with the electrical contacts in there. So there's just two screws on either side of that black plastic piece that hold it in place. And the next thing you're going to do is remove the 4 screws securing the bezel to the lens. Now again, these are going to be pretty tight in there. One thing I would probably recommend is if you can get a thicker handled screwdriver, it would probably be a lot easier, but you're really going to have to torque these things to get them out. So then once you remove those 4 screws, you're going to gently pop up the bezel, and from the underside of the bezel you're going to pop out that black plastic piece, and then you can remove the bezel. So the next thing is you're going to slightly move that plastic piece just so you can get it loose, and then you're going to pull that orange cable right out, and a nice pair of pointy tweezers are really going to help here as well. And then we can start removing all of these little connectors here. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing, but a couple of them pull out pretty easily, and then there are a couple where you have a plastic clasp that holds down the wire, and you just have to gently pry that up. And once you pry that part up on both sides, you should be able to pull that wire out. And again, not using a lot of force, just gently wiggling it out. So there are a couple of these, and we'll just go around and remove all of them. Okay, so next up we got to remove a couple of small screws. So we're going to go ahead and do those. Again, takes a lot of, they're really tight, so you're going to have to really press down to get those to pop out. And once you remove that screw, you can remove this circuit board. And then underneath, the black plastic ring can get slid right off. Now there are a couple of screws that hold in this black plastic cover. The first one is right there. We're just going to go around and remove these screws here so we can take out that plastic cover. Okay, so next up, we have to gently peel this cable off of the back. It's basically just got a really sticky background that just holds it to the bottom here. So I'm just very gently, a little bit at a time, peeling that cable up just so I don't rip it off or anything. But then once it is completely removed, we'll be able to move on to the next step. So after we remove that black plastic base, as you can see, there's that sticky stuff there. The next thing that we need to do is peel off the zoom ring rubber. So all I'm doing is very gently getting underneath it so I can just kind of gently peel it right off. I don't want to overstretch this band because I'm planning on reusing it. Once you get it right over that lip, you just kind of wiggle it off, and then you can pull it straight off. Okay, so one thing to note here is I did kind of press something down and it kind of stuck to the bottom there, so I just used the tweezers to pry that out. It's basically the numbers that hide behind the little glass screen. The next thing I'm going to do is peel off this thing that looks like black electrical tape. It just covers the electrical contacts, I'm assuming, so that dust doesn't get in there. But I am peeling this off gently because I do plan to reuse it. So once I peel it off, I'll just stick it aside for later. So as you can see here, you see those little plastic bits? I can tell that that's actually what's disconnected. So I'm trying to zoom in here and see what's going on internally. So I'm just kind of taking a look, but I can tell as I'm spinning the zoom ring, it's definitely not where it needs to go. And it actually looks like this plastic piece is broken off from where it needs to be. So I know that that's definitely the reason that it's not working properly. So first thing I'm going to do is remove this screw. And once you remove that screw, there's a little plastic bushing that you're going to have to remove, so use the tweezers to get that out. And there's a couple more of those to remove. Get the screw out of there and get that metal bit out of there. And again, another screw with another bushing. Now as you can see, I found that black plastic piece that was broken off, and I have a feeling I know exactly where it goes. You can see it just kind of sheared right off the side there. Alright, so at this point I know I need to get further down, so I got a couple more screws to remove so I can take out the actual motor of the lens. Okay, so once those 3 screws are removed, you can actually pull out that whole motor assembly. So that's what I'm doing here, just pull straight out. And again, this is that metal thing that kind of just keeps sticking to the bottom, and that goes through that window. So I'm just popping it out here. Now you can slide off the zoom ring completely. And doing a little bit more inspection here, I can see exactly where that plastic piece broke right off. And I'm just lining it up here just to show you, yep, that's exactly where it broke off. I basically just glued it in place and made sure there was nothing sticking out. It's not a perfect job, but so now that I got it in place, it's time for reassembly. Basically, it's like two forks that have to interlock with that zoom ring and the actual lens itself, so they just need to line up. So here's the metal bit of the fork. Let me just reposition this so you can see. So plastic bit, metal bit, right there. Again. Let's see if we can focus here. We have, again, that metal bit and the plastic bit. Next for reassembly, we have this this plastic slide. Alright, the next part, it's kind of tedious, but you have to make sure that you're not pinching any wires when you slide that motor back in place. Alright, so once you get all of the wires not pinched and pulled all the way through, what you can do is actually hold the lens extended, and with my finger I'm holding the metal fork prong. I showed you where it went before, but I'm just holding it extended, and this is going to help me line up that other plastic bit into the correct spot. And then while I'm holding everything up, I'm going to screw everything in place, and then I can realign the plastic zoom ring, plastic fork part, and mesh it together with the metal fork part that I'm holding with my finger. And then again, I'm going to do that after I screw in these next couple screws for reinstalling the motor. Now I can check to make sure everything's working. So just pulling it in and out. And now all I have to do is line up the zoom ring in the correct location so it actually spins that metal fork bit. Next, we're going to put those spacers back in and then tighten up the screw for it. And once we get the screws tightened, we can go and put that metal bit and the plastic tape back on. Now at this point, I did test to make sure that the zoom ring was actually working the lens, and it was, so everything looks like it's holding and is back in correctly. So just gotta slide the rubber ring back over the lens. Next, we just have to make sure that these couple of wires here line up with those two holes. So it's just two of them. It can be a little finicky to pull them through, so I'm using the tweezers to help guide those two that need to go through those two holes. And again, make sure we're doing this slow so we don't pinch anything. And once those are in place, we can screw down that black plastic. Alright, so next up we're going to replace this circuit board. So once it's in the correct position, we can again put in the screw to secure it. And then after that, we're going to go around and reinstall all of those cables. And once you do put those cables in, I would recommend just giving them a slight tug just to make sure that they are fully secured with those clamps. And again, it's just kind of press them in there and snap that plastic into place. Now, a real important thing to make sure you don't forget is to install the black focus ring. So that goes on at this step, and then we can put in the last plastic piece, and again securing the cable. Next, it's time to mount the bezel, so just put it in place and secure the 4 screws. Once the bezel is in place, we have the 2 remaining screws to secure the black piece with the electrical contacts. So we're just going to press that up against the side of the bezel and hold it in place while we secure the screws. And the last step here is we're just going to give this lens a nice little final clean. And we take this plastic bit and it just snaps into place. So you put it straight up and down and then just press to secure. As you can see, I'm testing the focus ring and then the zoom ring. And if you look, I've got some of the settings shown here just so I can see that everything's changing as I'm zooming in and out with the lens. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Just let me know.